Welcome to the future of money. Come with us on this journey into the world of Bitcoin, blockchain and crypto projects. You're going to meet the trailblazers. These people have changed my life and they may very well do the same for you.
Welcome back, Hard Forkers. We've got a fantastic group of people together for today's video. Charles Nader, the CEO and founder of Doc.com. Welcome along.
Thank you very much.
Dustin, good to have you back.
Yep.
And Jesse, a rare guest, but crucial member of the Hard Forking team. Great to have you along today, mate.
Pleasure to be here.
So just to let you know what this video is about, everyone out there, I reached out to the community a while back and asked who was doing something special in the blockchain space, specifically around social impact, and Charles's name popped up on 3 occasions actually. So I reached out to him. Right around the time you got back to me, my good friend Jesse also mentioned that he was using a online therapist. So I thought let's get everyone together and talk through what I think is a fantastic offering. Obviously, with everyone in lockdown at the moment, it's become even more pertinent. And Dunstan, just to give a bit of context to his participation today, we're launching a show in 2 weeks' time that will look at the better projects in the blockchain space, pairing them up with venture capital, best and brightest out there. So he was very keen to come in and sit on this video as well. So Charles, I'd love to throw it over to you first, if you could tell us all about yourself and about Doc.com.
Sure. I started Doc.com really with the mission to find a forum to provide free basic healthcare for the world. I had studied medical school. I didn't know what to do with my life, had some failed businesses and things back in my mid-20s. And it was like, well, what to do? I was reading a lot of books on from Jim Rohn, just various different business books. And that created my business philosophy, which I said, well, what's the best thing I could do in life? And that was basically find a way to provide free healthcare for the world. So I'd come from a medical background studying medicine in Mexico City. I grew up in the U.S. and I have dual citizenship. I'm a Mexican and American. So I came back to live in Mexico to study medicine. And that's when the idea came out. Well, it wasn't, that you hear these ideas in the ether, but giving telemedicine and basing it off a data model, I said, can we make this commercially viable? And that's how we started. Based on that concept, we started the company back in 2012. It had a different name. It was called Doctor Dice, and it ended up evolving to what we have now. And we're the largest telemedicine company in Latin America. We're also in 19 states in the U.S. We have contracts with companies like Bupa, TrackPhone, Wireless, Edenred, multiple countries in different regions. We work with governments. And it just basically comes down to a very simple concept. This is the basis of everything. I'm going to show you guys a live demonstration. If you're in any country in Latin America right now except Brazil, or if you're in the US in one of these 19 states, you can use our service. It's free to try. We're the lowest cost healthcare service in the US and in Latin America. And we use blockchain technology, obviously. But we have 2 services. One is you can speak to a doctor 24 hours a day through video chat, or you can speak to a psychologist 24 hours a day through video chat. And our philosophy and our model is just make it extremely simple. You don't have to fill out forms or anything. You just press a button, connects you through video chat, and you start the process. So I'm going to show you guys. Here's the app. You just open it up, doc.com. Registration is extremely easy. You just use a telephone number or email, your name and your birth date. You have 2 buttons, talk to a doctor, talk to a psychologist. You press this button, and right now it's going to connect us through video chat to a doctor. And it's usually wait times are on average less than a minute. It's extremely fast. We've optimized our service throughout the years. This is part of the know-how that we have nowadays from doing this for some time now. And it's a great service. There you go. When the doctor's ready, it says your doctor's ready. Phone rings, gives you the name of the doctor, license number. You click start, and it's connecting.
Hola, bienvenidos a pensamientomédico.com. Hola, la doctora Medina. Tengo gusto con Charles Nader.
Sí, doctora, estamos haciendo una... Hola, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, ¿ustedes cómo están?
Bien, bien, estamos aquí, estamos hablando en inglés ahorita, pero...
Hello.
Gracias, doctora.
Inception.
Okay.
So at the end, you can rate it. You have a comment box. You click accept. And up here, if you can see, it says MTC balance. See that?
Yep.
What we do is when we compile, right now we didn't go through a full medical assistance or a psychological consultation. When you go through the full process and you get some sort of treatment, we compile epidemiological data in our system. That data has value to us. It's anonymized data, but it still has commercial value to us. We determine lots of things, what medications are being taken, or what kind of pathology someone has, populations have in general, et cetera. We do a lot of analytics. We also work with IQVIA, which is the largest medical analytics company that works with the healthcare industry in general. So we do combined products for businesses and governments with IQVIA, and you get rewarded for the data that was acquired and for taking care of your health in different forms. So you get rewarded with our cryptocurrency, with MTC, and you can see the balance there, reference to USD. You can use that MTC to pay for medications or pay for further medical assistances. So that's the basis from the user standpoint of what we do and how we use blockchain. The other benefit is we use blockchain technology. Every time someone finalizes and has a complete medical assistance or psychological assistance, it's registered because we're rewarding them. It's publicly verifiable on the blockchain. We display those hashes on our website on doc.com. And it's also part of the concept of the life chain, which is our blockchain we're still in development, but in essence, it stores the data, gives the user a quick access through the app to give permission to use that data if a third party wants to have access to it.
Is there an option, Charles? Because obviously, if you talk, especially around the area of maybe the psychologist side of things, the data protection side of things, I'm sure that's something a lot of people watching this would love to know more about. Is there an option where their data isn't shared, or
yeah, you can opt out. You can definitely opt.
You can opt out.
Yeah, you can opt out in the menu there. The products that we sell that we've created, they're based on epidemiology. This kind of epidemiology is extremely precise.
That's a word everyone's hearing at the moment. Just for those that don't know what it is, can you explain?
Well, when I give my talks, different places, I give some talks sometimes, and I always tell people the story of Dr. Jon Snow. If you're a fan of Game of Thrones, they use the same name from that doctor, Jon Snow, for one of the characters in Game of Thrones. But Jon Snow was a doctor, an English doctor, during the cholera epidemic back in the 1800s. People didn't know why they were getting cholera. It was just something like everyone would start getting cholera. It's a very slow and painful death. So people would flee London. And he decided to stay during the epidemic during that time. And he went door to door, going down the streets, mapping out who had died of cholera house by house. Now, by doing that, he found out that they were getting cholera through the water system. There was a water pump on the corner of that block, and that would distribute water to the houses. And if it weren't for him going door to door, fearlessly, he wouldn't have found that out. He also was able to correlate. There was also a brewery. Back then, it's a lot of people don't know this, but a lot of mostly men used to drink more beer than water. They'd get up in the morning and have like a pint of beer. So they'd be kind of tipsy all day. But it was weird that he went to the brewery, and of the 50-something people that worked there, only 4 had gotten cholera. So he's like, it has something to do with the water. There's something happening in the water. And that was a start of the science of epidemiology, which is now a pillar of medicine. Basically mapping out pathologies, what's going on by region, and using that information to determine what's going on. That started the science of epidemiology, which ended up focusing a lot of scientists during that time to find ways to get clean water, because they would look at the water and they would say, well, it looks clean, but they didn't know germs back then were just a theory. So it shows you the importance. Something like that can have an impact that ends up saving the lives of billions of people. So based on that concept, I'd studied medicine. I said, well, there is no better way of getting epidemiological information than directly from patients that are out there. We have technology these days that can give us that access in a much more precise way and much more efficient way than going door to door. So that was the basis of it. And, back then you would see things that are like, well, there really isn't anything like that. And that was the basis for what we did, our business model. So that epidemiology is the study of groups or masses of pathologies to determine causes and possible solutions for them.
Yeah, I think everyone on the planet's going to be familiar with the term over the next year or two, aren't they? Yeah.
Right.
Guys, I'd love to throw it over to Jesse. Do you have some questions at this stage?
So when I started using this website, betterhelp.com, which was it definitely didn't strike me right off the bat as anything groundbreaking until when I started giving information about. I mean, this is regarding to kind of what you're talking about, epidemiology. I said that right? Yeah. It seemed like this was a form of immediate epidemiology going on in the form of me giving tons of information, and I gave them all this information happily because it was in order to find someone who is most fit to talk to me. I could see that through this process, I really did land with someone who, for at least, we didn't have to break a whole bunch of ground to get to the base level. The base level was already like halfway up the hill. And so, I mean, in a sense, it was like, I guess, is that what kind of the epidemiology would be on a grander scale of what you're talking about? Just a bigger form of what I did?
Yeah, I mean, it's what you did was representative of just one person within that pool of people. But in the end, that's, epidemiology is more of it's a science based on the multitudes of people.
Right.
And BetterHelp, for example, is one of the leaders in therapy in the U.S. And they've grown a lot. We started in Latin America, which has a massive population of extremely poor people,
Right.
extreme poverty. So we had to find a way. I always say, like, they're like, wow, it's so much harder to just have a startup in Latin America. So the whole venture capital space is completely different. They're probably less than a tenth of the size of what it is in the U.S. But we had to find a way to have something that was accessible and easy to use for just any person, and here you see people that are, it's crazy. They find a way to get a smartphone, but they're literally people that are beggars on the streets. And it's something you don't see as often in the U.S. Here, it's, generational poverty in Latin America. It's very sad to see. It's something that really touches your heart when you see it, little kids on the streets and stuff. So the way we designed it, we designed our service to have no barriers. It was extremely easy to use. Just press a button, gets you connected to someone. And that was really important for us to have it done that way, because we understand that there's people that just need they don't have the level of schooling that other people do. There's a large separation in social classes, and it happens in Asia too. And this is something happens in many parts of the world. So, and the irony is that those populations, the poverty-stricken populations, are the ones that have the highest cost impact to governments. They're the ones that end up costing the most to governments. So it's kind of like, well, you know more about the people, or you have more epidemiological data from the people that actually have a higher income level. What happened to all these people? And we try to make a service to help the masses. Mental health is something that we all need. You can be completely healthy physically, but we all have emotional problems at some point, for whatever, work-related, family-related, anything, your own internal stuff that we all go through. So there's two buttons. Some people would say, well, why don't you just focus on one? It's more than just physical stuff. It's also mental health is extremely important. We've had people from just the most basic things, patients like yourself that you say, well, I just want to talk about, whatever, anxiety or anything that's just normal. But we have people, we treat a lot of people that have just basic things, and we have had multiple times. Last year we had over 450 calls that were people that were trying to manifest suicide in that moment. We classify that as under SNOMED International Scientific Standards as the case that's someone's trying to manifest suicide in that moment, and you see those extremes, but it's really gratifying what we do. And the whole company, everything that works in it, we're all very passionate about what we do, because you see the results immediately. If you can change the trajectory of that person or any person's life during that moment, you're not only affecting that person, but you're also affecting their family members and their friends. It has a ripple effect. So we're entering this new era. You're yourself you're a patient that's going into this new era of digital health. We can get a lot of these things done. And now with artificial intelligence, you can determine lots of vital signs purely from just the camera feed. It's amazing what you can do these days. You don't have to have, other hardwares to get additional signals. You can still do a lot of stuff with the camera feed. So as time goes on, a lot of more innovations are going to be integrated into the whole digital health space. But it is a new era that we're going into. I always tell my mom and I are big Star Trek fans. We're Trekkies. And, they always have the tricorder, they scan you and it's like, someday it's going to be like that, they'll be able to tell you everything that you got right away just by scanning you, and you'll just be able to solve everything quickly. We're on that path already.
When I'm here in Bangkok, when I walk to the market to get my lunch, it's less romantic when the guy with the loose fit sideways hat puts the scanner to my head just to make sure I don't have the flu. He's just, hey, come home, get on in there.
Well, it's pretty amazing. I mean, who would have thought? It happened to me yesterday. I had a meeting. I went to a place, and they had to scan me too, scan my temperature. But you can do that now with a phone. You can actually, with artificial intelligence, 98% precision. Wow. You can scan heart rate, temperature, oxygen saturation, many other things it's just incredible. Like, wait a second, this is just purely from the video feed. I'm like, yeah, it's that precise. It's thousands of times more precise than the human eye. It's amazing.
I'll get Dustin to jump in with a question in a moment. I was thinking of banning him. He didn't get the memo about wearing a black T-shirt quite clearly. But,
that's all right. We're all wearing black T-shirts except Dustin. That's right.
Don't worry, Dustin. We'll include you. But before Dustin jumps in, I was just wondering, could you talk a wee bit about? Obviously, Jesse mentioned a company that he's been using. Tell us a bit about the landscape. How many companies are out there doing what Doc.com are doing, and maybe why you're different.
There's a lot of telemedicine companies. None of them have the format that we have, that you just press a button, it connects you to something. From start to finish, if you download our app to actually speaking to someone, it's on average less than 5 minutes. If you're already registered, you just saw it's literally less than a minute on average. So under this format, those are the competitive advantages, but there are many companies in the US that offer telemedicine, and they charge you per consultation. The largest one in the world is Teladoc. They charge you an average $50 per consultation. They use an Uber style model, which they send out a petition to doctors, and the doctor decides if he wants to take the call or not. We don't do like that. Our doctors and psychologists are in-house. They're trained. They work full shifts with us. They're focused purely on this. Those are the differences on the way we do things. We also have a different philosophy. It's lower costs and stuff like that. But there are many companies in the U.S. that are just purely in the U.S. market. There's some, because of the whole pandemic, there's a lot of these new ones that are popped out of the woodwork in the past few months in Latin America. We're obviously the leader in Latin America because we've treated hundreds of thousands of patients under this format, which is very significant under this format. And in Europe, there's also telemedicine companies. So a lot of insurance companies offer you telemedicine. There's some companies that offer you telemedicine if you're if you're an employee of the company. But telemedicine is kind of like saying blockchain. Like, someone says, well, we use blockchain technology. And it's like, well, in which way? It's so many ways of using it. We use it for our specific service in certain ways, which we'll go into right now deeper. But, telemedicine, some people think just having a call with a doctor is telemedicine. What is actually telemedicine? So, we try to define it in our campaigns to say, this is what we believe it should be like. There are competitors out there, and it's just digital health in general. There's just so many different levels to it. There's telemedicine specifically for diabetics, for example, or cancer patients. And so there's different variations of it. We call ourselves, free basic healthcare for the world. That's our philosophy. It's primary care. It's a basic service. We believe it's what the world truly needs the most, and so that's what we focus on. But there's many other telemedicine companies.
Charles, just quickly, you're able to. The obvious question for people is, how are you able to fund that? So that free sort of basic consultation. These are internal doctors that you guys employ. Is that the case?
Yes.
And you're able to fund that because you can on-sell the data from that.
Well, we have the
sources effectively.
We have different revenue streams. We have basically 3 different revenue streams. We have a revenue stream from B2B sales, which is basically contracts like with insurance companies. We're their provider of telemedicine, so we get paid per population. We have B2C revenue stream, which is what you just saw. You can buy a package if you just someone out there that finds out about us, you can download it, pay a package. Our Prime package, which is in Latin America, starts at $1 a month, and in the US it's $9.99 or $5.99 a month in the states that we're in, and those are 2 revenue streams, and we have the third one, which is basically analytics, epidemiological analytics, and we package that in various different ways. There's for example, governments that want to see specific things on infant mortality rate. So they ask about analytics purely focused on pregnant women. So we get a lot of pregnant women that call us, from cases, just general things, we tell them, take your vitamins, do this, et cetera. There's a clinic near you, to things like, preeclampsia, where they're about to lose their baby. They don't know. So we'd go to the hospital right now, things like that. And that goes into all these analytics. Governments spend a lot of money trying to reduce infant mortality rates, and we contribute to that, because even if you can say that through our service, there was an additional 5 women that were able to get treated, that's already a big win for a government. They take those metrics into consideration. And so we package our analytics in different ways. So those are our 3 revenue streams.
Okay. Dustin, this is probably the natural time for you to maybe jump in with a couple of questions around the token, etc.
Sure.
My main focus wouldn't be on the token, actually. My main focus would actually be on the life chain itself that you were talking about. I mean, why build your own blockchain when there are so many services, blockchain services out there, whether or not it's public or private blockchains itself? What's the main goal?
Well, we originally considered using a third-party blockchain. The thing was the gas costs are extremely high. For example, right now we do transactions on Ethereum, right? So every time we reward someone, there's a gas cost. It's like, well, we're rewarding people every time they use a service. So that's one problem that came about. It's like, all right, sometimes the gas cost is higher than the actual reward itself. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is when you go deep down into the actual design of it, we needed to create something that would function with our services and that would store the data encryptedly and then would request the user permission to have access to that data. All those components, it's like, well, there were some that could be done well with a third-party blockchain, but in the end, it was like, well, should we just build our own protocol or should we use a third party? And it came down to hiring. We ended up hiring a group of developers in Europe that had created 2 other blockchains, public blockchains, and they're like, it's just the best architecture for this is going off and creating our own. And it's been a huge project for us because for us it's a fundamental thing. It's really the legacy that Doc.com had started. The life chain is a separate entity. It becomes a public blockchain, which is being fed information from Doc services, but it's designed for other healthcare organizations to add data to it in the future. And since we already have a running base of users that we compile data from, we want to offer them the actual control of their information. We said, well, we have the good basis to start and feed the life chain information and then open it up to the public. And it was just basically the design elements that we decided to do our own blockchain, the cost element. Those are the main reasons.
I do understand about transactional issues regarding most of the public blockchains out there. Consensus mechanisms are quite iffy right now, like including US, they could shut down your wallets and your service anytime should they want to. Ethereum is getting way too expensive. Even if they move to a proof of stake, there's going to be another set of problems altogether. But what I want to ask is because you see, right, like even building your own blockchain, the cost is quite cost inhibitive to architecture and build your own blockchain. Like I'm a person that have helped architecture quite a few of the blockchains out there, and I understand that most of them would just be a fork or for lack of a better word, a copy of the current blockchains out there. It could be a fork of Ethereum, it could be a fork of the Bitcoin network, it could be a fork of EOS and so on, or even like using gossip protocols. Now, where I want to tap on is this: if that's the case, right? How do you scale? You see, right? The biggest problem of a blockchain that puts medical records is going to grow to immense size.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's not just written data and so on. Like it could be like videos, it could be pictures and so on. And the size of each block is gonna expand to a massive size. And when that happens, right, your server costs are gonna skyrocket too. What is it about the life chain that you are doing that's different? How do you help it scale?
Well, we actually, our original model, which you probably saw in the original white paper that was written over 2 years ago, that concept has evolved greatly to what it is today. You mentioned earlier the whole switch from proof of work to proof of stake. We actually changed that in the last 6 months. We changed the whole design because of all this new knowledge that we acquired over time, and it was one of the things was, the scalability of it. So we originally had said, well, how are we going to solve this? Let's just store everything on a blockchain. It wasn't that efficient to do it like that. It was hard to scale it, server cost, like you mentioned. So we said, well, let's do a mix, proof of work, proof of stake model, like a hybrid blockchain. and that's what we started developing. And today it's just switching completely to proof of stake. But it was originally designed so we could choose, corporations or governments or that could have nodes, and we would give them access through the LifeChain Foundation to actually become a node and store this information based on them being clients of Doc.com also. So kind of mitigating the costs of that through that way. And it's still something that right now it's in development. We brought in this team. It's relatively recent that we brought in this team. They came up with a lot of interesting ideas, and because of the scalability of it. Right now, the way we capture data, it's basically raw data. It's not we're not storing the videos and stuff like that on that yet. Correct. But it is some of the things that we want to do. There's different ideas that were presented to do some things off chain, where you could just request a key to access certain databases off chain.
So that would be Oracle-based transactions then. Exactly. So that's part of the architecture that's being designed to do that. And the reality is we focus on giving the actual patient the basics of what we truly believe blockchain should be for. If your data is being stored somewhere, wherever it may be, use blockchain technology to make the access to that data transparent. That's one thing, extremely important. And also, you can build a crypto economy on top of it, which is extremely important too, because it's the first time you can really combine these two things in one architecture that's transparent and publicly verifiable. So, the whole crypto economic aspect of it, which a lot of people don't understand the significance of it. For me, it was extremely significant to add this component to the company years ago, because the whole crypto economic aspect, it gives value to whatever coin is linked up to that whole system. So, it's still something that time will tell how valuable something like that can be, but you still have some sort of economic cycle that's running based on healthcare information that we already know is valuable. So if the patient gets some sort of reward for that information, and the access is being transparently used or managed through a blockchain system, then the whole system itself has the components that can make it scalable, or at least have enough value to be worthwhile to put effort into. Yeah, so just some advice regarding the blockchain that you're building. In order to make it scale, right, proof of works and proof of stakes won't be suitable for such a massive undertaking. I mean, there are quite a few blockchain projects out there, protocol projects actually, that are trying to store medical data. None of them have been successful actually. Yeah, because they can't get it to scale. They can't get the transactions to be fast enough. They can't even store enough information per block, because the size of the information is just going to get too massive. Yeah. Oracle-based, yes, it's a potential solution, but then it kind of also defeats the purpose of, in a sense, why we use the blockchain, you see. Because then the information is being stored somewhere else, and the access to that data can be blocked.
Well, it all really depends on what data you're storing in the end. Correct. And it's if you say, well, let's store absolutely everything, it's something that we say, well, maybe down the line, let's figure out what we end up doing down the line. Yep. Right now, with what we're starting with right now, it is a viable option, but it's also something that that keeps on evolving. I mean, I just see what happened in the last 2 years in our design alone of the LifeChain, and it was like, well, thank goodness that we didn't release the first version of it, because right now we'd be in huge problems, and it's one of those things. It just keeps on evolving in so many ways. There's just so many new things. I try to keep up. I've read the last technical papers that Vitalik posted, and I'm like, wow, these it's really changed so much, and the Oracle based solutions. is something that right now it's like, well, that could be a viable thing. But like you said, in the end, what you really want to do is find a solution that stores it on a public blockchain, all the information possible. We may get to that point somehow. It's still part of the evolution of blockchain technology. It's kind of like, the beginning of the internet. That's why I love it so much. We just know it's going to keep on evolving.
So the good thing is this, take a look at our FIDO protocol, take a look at what we are building. We definitely might have some solutions for that, actually.
I definitely, Dustin, and I appreciate it very much. We're always looking. We have a very strong community, so I always listen to community. Actually, the people that we hired in are from our community. They ended up reaching out to us. They said we're experts. They were anonymous originally, but they're just people that were commenting, and they ended up being like high level programmers in Europe. And I'm always trying to find out how to improve things constantly. This is a constant process, especially with something so new and novel as blockchain technology in general. I appreciate it, Dustin, and definitely after this, we'll have a talk and we'll see what ideas are out there that we can.
Charles, on that note, how is your company structured? How many of you involved, and how many are from a medical background, a technology background? Can you tell us a wee bit about that?
Well, our company is, I'm a medical student. I studied at Stanford, a thing called technology-enabled blitzscaling, which is a methodology to scale companies worldwide. So that's my background. Really, it's been I've had other businesses in the past, several failures and stuff, but that's me as an individual. There's people in the company that worked at HP, Compaq, technology backgrounds. Obviously, we have lots of doctors and psychologists that work. We have in the U.S. and in Latin America. So it's a mix of tech people. We have a great dev team. Some people that are just purely self-taught programmers that are like programming prodigies, to just people that have gone through the whole IT or computer science degrees. And we also have lots of doctors and psychologists. We focus, we're a healthcare company. I mean, we have blockchain integrated because it's beneficial to make the actual model better, but we're really a healthcare company. And that's why, I talk to other companies in other industries, and I always tell them, hey, you should consider using blockchain technology for this aspect of your company. It can improve it, and you would have a competitive advantage that people don't have yet. And for them, it's just like, well, really, they don't see it yet. It's still too early. But we decided to go that route. So we're a healthcare company. We have a lot of healthcare professionals that work with us. The backgrounds vary from tech people to healthcare providers. And so I'm always surrounded and speaking to psychologists and stuff. They're always analyzing me and stuff. So it's kind of funny to have that aspect. And also we have a lot of tech talks and a lot of brainstorming. It's interesting to have these different perspectives because, suddenly you get great ideas from a doctor that usually, from the tech side, people wouldn't think about. Like, hey, what happens if the patient does this, or if I decide to do this other thing, and what about the data? How is it structured? So you get this great mix of brainstorming, and we have great advisors, people from the private equity space, and people from CEOs of corporations. One of our advisors is the CEO of Club Premier, which is the largest loyalty program in Latin America for airlines. There's just a good mix. And we have a lot of support from other things like Forbes Media Group, and just different governments. So it's a good mix, but mainly the people that work inside the company are healthcare backgrounds and tech backgrounds. And, just myself, that's a mix of both, really.
Sure. Where are you actually based?
Well, we have offices in Florida, in Miami, and we have offices in Mexico City. We also have an office in Colombia, and we're opening up one in Chile. We're also opening up a couple of new ones because of regulatory reasons in the U.S. and California and Texas. But right now, I'm in Mexico City. I basically travel mostly back and forth from the U.S. and Mexico City. back and forth. That's usually my route that I travel often. And, sometimes Europe is our next expansion. It's in our plans to expand to Spain, starting in Europe. So,
without getting too sidetracked, Charles, I know Mexico City is one of the more densely populated cities on Earth. How's the coronavirus affected you guys there?
It's pretty bad. There's a lot of things that people don't see, and I think this happens in many other countries, especially if Jesse, for example, is in Asia. I'm sure it's probably happening over there. There's a lot of
surprisingly not where Jesse is. That's one of the reasons I ask. He's in Bangkok, which is, maybe you could give us quickly what's it like in Bangkok, Jesse? I think you guys have just
right now. It's on the final level of returning back to normal. So like the last step will be stuff like nightclubs and bars, but basically everything under that is now open and ready for business.
Yeah, for us, I know 6 people have gotten COVID. I believe I had it back in February, late February when I came back from Spain. But here, it's there's a lot of people get infected and have COVID that's not even reported to the governments. So it's been kind of tough especially because the healthcare systems are already saturated. We treat. I think last week we had about 60 people that called our that had suspected COVID cases just in Mexico. And I was looking at those metrics because, I was thinking, well, this seems to be rising still. But it is, some people don't take it, they take it more lightly. I don't think it's as dangerous as people think it is, but for some it's quite dangerous. So I have a friend that his grandmother died of coronavirus, of COVID-19, and the doctor said if it weren't for that, she'd be alive. So he was devastated. He was completely devastated. And he had the means to take her to the best hospitals and everything. It's pretty sad to see that. So, even though you may be strong and healthy and you may get through it, the elderly or, it's still horrible to have a family member die because of it. So there's a lot of that going on right now. But Mexico.
If we look at the situation we've got, obviously it's become extremely politicized, and you're talking earlier about the collection of data. Obviously, we're talking about blockchains here, and for me, this is going to be huge moving forward. We've had this is our fourth coronavirus this century. Or third.
Yeah.
So, these are something that statistically so far are popping up every 6 to 7 years. It's naive to think we won't have this again. And obviously the use of blockchain, the collection of data, being able to make better decisions is what this is all about. Clearly what we've seen here with COVID-19 has been an absolute disaster, and the fallout. Let's see what happens. We're too early to tell. Sweden's taken a certain approach. So obviously with what you guys are doing, it's fascinating to really understand how that data collection can be improved, how the use of blockchain will, and especially public blockchains, which is what I think another conversation in the future with you guys would be fantastic on this topic. It's so pertinent and important moving forward. From a healthcare perspective, this has touched all of us. Any sort of specific comments on how you see things improving for what is an inevitable another pandemic in the future, or this one prolonging?
Oh yeah, pandemics are definitely inevitable. Just if you're a scientist, or you can speak to any scientist, or if you research science, you just know it's inevitable just because of the fact that new viruses are created on a daily basis. People don't know that you have to understand how a virus is created, but it's almost inevitable. People travel around much more. I see this as a really good thing because people are going to be much more cautious because of this. But pandemics are inevitable. I remember here in Mexico City, we had the H1N1. We were part of that. So they closed down things for about 2 weeks. That was about 8 years ago. And so, people forget that happened. So pandemics are inevitable. But at the same time, it's also put digital health in the forefront. So right now, something we've been working for years, telling people like, hey, use this, try it out, getting more users in, trying to convince people. Well, now it's become a extremely significant thing in people's lives. So they are taking this into consideration. And I see that as a very positive thing, because in the end, it could potentially save people's lives in the future. It's one of the consequences. So there's always something good that can come out of these things. I spoke about previously the whole John Snow epidemiological, the start of epidemiology, the story, and that, saved people's lives down the road because they found out how to clean water because of it. Yeah. So there's lots of good things that I think are going to come out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and Dunstan, maybe you could sort of give us a comment on this, that use of blockchain in this scenario, for me, it's really the most pertinent and pressing issue right now. Imagine if we had a shared global database where, we interviewed Scott Nader yesterday. You should check that video out. He spoke about empathy. And the big thing here, the adoption of blockchain technology will center around that very word. Imagine if all the countries involved here had that central database, that public blockchain, where all this information was shared. Our ability to be making good decisions right now would be so vastly enhanced. So, for us to understand how you guys are using this technology, obviously, is extremely interesting to us, and it'd be a great thing to look at, to delve into in another video with you. But Dunstan, on that note, have you got any thoughts around the coronavirus and the use of blockchain technology specifically, and maybe what you feel the guys here at doc.com could benefit from a few of your thoughts around?
Well, technically, the biggest problem with the adoption of blockchain is actually the governments getting them to work together. For lack of a better word, is actually a pain in the ass, because information is power in our current world right now. Those with the large amount of information, with private information, with insider information, are the ones that have a huge competitive advantage over others. Getting them to come together on a global network, which they already are, but they are not using, is the internet itself. It is being drawn into like separate factions, and I see that blockchain will become like that, because the blockchains are like the internet 2.0 actually, in a sense. So with this, right, you will see like different factions, different governments wanting to draw even to isolate their information. I don't think they will be working together. Look at the World Health Organization, man. It's actually just a political, it's politically driven. It has a political agenda. There's no empathy in it, actually. It's all about power.
You don't think this black swan pandemic that has literally touched every person on this planet could be a catalyst for that change? It's a very, very dark view of things.
Yeah. Okay. Has an old guard in the space. I always have this hope. It's like a small little light that never seems to die down, but the darkness is still as it is. When I see the different governments and how they act during this time, right, this COVID time, right, they are not working together.
No,
they all have their own agenda. They're all consolidating even more power right now. Correct? So if that's the case, right, what we hope, what we purists in the blockchain space hope will never come about if this is the current viewpoint, and these are the current political aspects of the world right now.
Yeah. I think a lot is educating people on what actually blockchain is, for example. I mean, I go to people, the word blockchain itself, just for some people, it scares them, which is, it's kind of ironic. You go to, especially government officials, you mention something blockchain or mention cryptocurrencies, they're like, whoa.
Yeah, and it's a growth Bitcoin,
what's
right?
wrong with it? It's a technology. Yeah. It's a technology, but that's part of the problem. The thing is, some people don't even know what it is. They don't understand it. I've been surprised going to, for example, I had this session in the U.S. in San Francisco with leaders of some important venture capital funds. I remember sitting down with them, and one of them looked to the other and said, "Oh, do you know anything about blockchain?" And they're just laughing about it. And I was just like, what the heck's going on here? It's a technology. Like, why aren't you taking it seriously? It's going to change the world. But for some people, it's just like I don't know, there's a stigma to it. That's part of the issue that we have to get through. It will happen eventually, because in the end, technology, people will start using it and people take advantage of it. And in the end, they'll be like, yeah, they used to say the same stuff about the internet in the beginnings. There's that story with Jeff Bezos. He told his wife when he quit his job, he said, "I want to start selling books on the internet." And the first thing she asked him is, "What is the internet?" We're kind of in that, not to that level of ignorance right now, but still for many people, it's like they don't even understand what blockchain is. So first is that part, but in the meantime, we'll just keep on working, people like Dustin and I, on taking advantage of the moment and being on the forefront of it.
Yeah,
so.
Well, you very much are. I mean, especially around epidemiology. Did I get that right? We're talking huge data sets. The collection of that in a public shared blockchain will potentially save everybody's lives in the future with what we're facing right now. It is a biggie. So, Jesse, you've been very quiet there as a user of this service and a guy with a good knowledge around blockchain. I think we'll sort of start to wrap it up here. Do you want to any sort of final thoughts about what you've heard today?
No, other than it's funny enough, in 1 hour, actually, I'm talking to my therapist. But I will say, anyone who's still watching this video right now, it works, and it's wonderful to hear that people that don't have almost no money are starting to get service, because even for people who can afford it but they still don't have too much money, now this makes it really easy for you. So it's pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah.
Dunstan, any closing thoughts from yourself?
Closing thoughts would be this. Thank God there are real use cases, a real proper use case of blockchain, and somebody that actually understands. And thank God that, your business has proper traction. Because I'm used to seeing quite a lot of bullshit in my industry. And of course, like what you say, all the stigma that the media is spinning, the financial institutes are spinning about blockchain because they have a problem in Bitcoin. And whatever we are doing, man. I mean, I was there since Bitcoin, I was there since Silk Road, and I've seen so far. And I went through the phase where I told nobody where, I was in Bitcoin, I was doing blockchain, and I was building blockchain, to the point where the CTO of two major blockchains, after I refused to help them with their blockchain, they actually left the company itself. Because I told them that, your blockchains are not going to scale. Your solutions are actually not as smart as you think it is, which is going to be a problem actually. And we start seeing that, some of the major blockchains out there have started facing a lot of problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on that note, Charles, today was never really about coming in to delve deeply into the tokenomics and business model of the company. But as I mentioned offline, where Dustin and I are actually launching a show in 2 weeks' time, where the companies that obviously go through a vetting process that we think have really got potential, or who are really well advanced but looking for another capital raise, we're putting them in touch with VCs here in Singapore and further afield. Would very much like you to have a look at what we're doing there, and if you feel it's appropriate to get involved, let us know. And to anyone else watching this, please get in touch if you've got a project you'd like us to know about. Charles, it's been an absolute pleasure meeting you and getting to know a bit more about doc.com. Anything in closing from yourself?
Well, I'd just like to say, there are people out there trying to make a difference. There are ways of solving things. If someone wants to try our service, doc.com, you can just go on doc.com and if you're in the regions and try it out. And, know that blockchain technology, for example, is a wonderful thing. It's going to change the world even more. It's great to be on your show, Sean. I appreciate it very much. And definitely we'll be in touch. I'd love to do another session and bring in one of our someone from our tech team to talk more on the specifics on the blockchain design itself. And we can do that on a future video. And it's exciting to be in these times. There's so much stuff going on, but everything is connected. So just focus on the good things and know that good things can happen if you just keep on trying.
Yep. Excellent. Well said, sir. Once again, thanks very much for joining us, Dunstan and Jesse. Most appreciated. And Charles, a pleasure. We'll get in touch. We look forward to speaking with you again in the near future. Thanks very much.
Cool.
Thanks everyone. Thank you.
Guys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Bye now. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep, I just got to let someone in, so I got to go right now.
He was